Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Raheel Show podcast right here on Facebook, YouTube, Anchor.fm, and of course, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, thank you so much for listening. Hey, I told you guys last episode that we are going to do this. We are going to release the Spicy Girl Summer t-shirts because the ladies wanted in on the spicy action. If you listen to the podcast, make sure you support it. Again, all of the proceeds go to support this podcast, the equipment, the back end, all that. So thank you so much. As you can see, a brand new mic. I don't have the telemarketer headset anymore. We are doing it big now, and it's all thanks to you, the users. Thank you for all the donations on Venmo at Raheel Podcast, or if you bought the shirts, Spicy Girls shirts available right now, and you will save 20% with promo code LADIES until May 21st. So make sure you take full advantage of that. Tank tops, t-shirts, everything. Thank you again for all the support. It truly means the world to me. And our push for 1,000 subscribers, it is underway right now. We are almost going to do it. And by almost, I mean we are well short of the goal. But I know with each person that listens, all you have to do is send it to 5 people. Tell them to subscribe and listen to the episodes. By June 6th, I want to get to 1,000 new subscribers, and we will do that. Thank you again for all the support. And today, it is a special guest. The man, the legend. He's an uncle to all of us. One of the greatest dudes I know. One of the kindest people I know. He reached out to me. He's like, Raheel, I want to be on your show. And I said, what are you doing, Uncle Greg? Absolutely. You never have to ask. You have an open invite, Uncle Greg Koch. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing great, Raheel. It's good to see you on the air. I know the people in Houston are happy about it. So I was happy for you, and I just hope this thing really takes off for you.
Man, thank you so much. For those of you that don't know, Greg Koch was on 790, the same time that I used to be on ESPN, and I respect him so much. He and Andy Kalu, really nice to me every single time I've talked to them. We had one incident, and it was caused by me. I pranked your show one time just because I thought we were friends, and we are friends, and we're cool. And I texted Andy right away, and I was like, dude, I'm so sorry I did. And what I did, I think it was around Super Bowl time, and I just put up an ad on Craigslist saying, hey, guys, free tickets. All you have to do is call 713. What's y'all's number? 4790. What was y'all's number? Whatever. Yeah.
125-790.
There you go. So I gave your hotline number out, and
I could get no calls in,
yeah. So it actually helped you guys. You're like, hell yeah, free calls. But I was like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that before checking with you guys. But it was never any, ill will or anything like that ever between us. And I know a lot of radio guys do the whole, I don't like my competition. I don't care. I want to be friends with everybody, especially.
I've never understood that either. It's just, hey, we're just talking sports. It's not, fixing the economy or fixing the world we're in right now.
Exactly.
So, I've never understood that.
And that mentality to me also takes away from a chance to meet new people, meet interesting people, right? If you have your wall up the whole time, Uncle Greg, I don't get a chance to meet you. I don't get a chance to talk to you and interact with you and learn a little bit about you. And, we have mutual friends, and it's stuff like that. That doesn't happen if you're constantly on this me against the world mentality.
Right. And we got to get people back together. I mean, it used to be like when I was growing up, you might vote Democrat, I might vote Republican, but I thought you wanted what was best for the country, and you thought I wanted what was best for the country. And you were friends. Now, man, I'm afraid to say anything because, people get so insulted just by what the labels they put on people. So, yeah, we need to all get back together, and especially in the sports radio talk show business. There is no reason to have any animosity between all the hosts.
Yeah, it's radio. You're right. We're not solving the coronavirus. We're not changing the world. We are entertaining people and hopefully having a good time. That's what I never got down with that mentality. To me, it was, okay, we can win. And look,
forever. So
yeah. And that's how it should be. This is a chance to meet new people and make the best of it. Because we were lucky. We were given an opportunity to entertain people on radio, right? Like that, when you look back, you go, wow, I got a chance to do that. I got a chance to entertain people in the city of Houston. And that was so cool. Why am I going to act like this is this is World Series Game 7 or the Super Bowl, and you being a professional athlete as well, to hear it from you, like, yes, you can be a competitor and you can also respect your opponents and also get cool with your opponents.
Yeah, and we've always been cool. So
that's how it is.
You have questionable friends. I'll say that about you. But
yeah, Jackie.
Jackie.
Yeah, that's it. Jackie. Amber's awesome. The rest of them are awesome. Jackie, very questionable. Very questionable. So Uncle Greg Koch, if you have questions for those of you that are watching live, you can definitely send it to us. Post your questions. We will answer them. I've got a bunch of stuff to get to with you. First and foremost, man, how is retirement? How's everything been going for you?
When you think about retirement, do not do it. It's like the first time I came back from my rookie year in Green Bay. I go, man, I can't wait to see all my friends again. We're going to go play golf and have a bunch of fun. And everybody's working. So now, you're sitting here and everybody's working. Then you've been shut in for 45 days. I mean, the timing of my retirement couldn't have been worse. But yeah, I miss it and I don't miss it, if you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely. What do you miss the most first?
The interaction with people, me and ND, you know as well as anything that chemistry is really what makes great radio shows in my view. And ND, I'm 20 years older than him. He's black. I'm white. He was a defensive end. I was an offensive lineman. We had such different perspectives on everything. I really learned a lot from ND. I think he'd tell you he learned a lot from me. And I miss him because, we became like brothers. They told us when we went over there that, a good radio show lasts about 3 years in Houston. We were 8 years we were together. So,
man,
yeah,
that's awesome.
I really enjoyed
it. Andy's such a good guy.
He is.
He's such a, and both you guys, coming from that world where you're playing for your keep, you're constantly grinding. You're always on that grind. Both of you guys being professional athletes, you would think that, okay, these guys are going to they might be mean, they might be standoffish, they might think they're better than the rest of you. And you guys never had that attitude. And that's why I think it was so important to highlight both of y'all in terms of, we're former athletes, but that's not going to define us, because both of you guys are doing separate things as well. I mean, hell, you were a lawyer for a long time. ND is doing his real estate stuff. And you guys are like, cool, let's just talk sports from our perspective. And we're not going to think less of you because you're not an athlete. And I love that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it made, why are you even talking to people? You might as well just get on there and talk at them. I want to talk with people, because just the fact that you play doesn't mean you can't have different perspectives on things that happen. Now, people have disagreed with me on a lot of things because I'm pretty in your face, going to tell you what I think. But that's fine with me. That doesn't bother me. I don't get all offended by it. And I wish people would stop getting offended by words. And if we have a disagreement, don't attack me personally. Just attack the argument.
And I think a lot of people forget that now is
right.
We're allowed to have disagreements. We're allowed to have different opinions. And at the end of the day, you can respect my opinion. I can respect your opinion. But you know what? In the last
wait, I never said I respected your opinion. most people.
My opinion, you shouldn't respect my opinion. But it's so weird. Like, this has happened in it seems like the last 6 years, where, and it's really been amplified here, with President Trump and people backing him, people opposing him, all of that. It's really been amplified for reasons that are so strange. Like, everyone is trying to get each other on Twitter. They're trying to show each other up on Twitter. And then that mentality, to me, has spread across so many different mediums. But the one thing, Uncle Greg, I will say, in our day-to-day, we don't have those kind of interactions. It seems like it's only social media where people are so against each other. Because think about your day-to-day, when you run into people, when you are coming across different people from different facets of life, we're not arguing at each other. We're not trying to dunk on each other and trying to one-up each other. We're all having, for the most part, pretty reasonable interactions.
Yeah, I mean, they should have named it Bitcher, not Twitter, because that's really what it is. Everybody bitching about things. That, knowing that you can say things to certain people that you would never say to them right to their face because you're this nameless person. So, yeah, I mean, I don't even want to talk about that, because I try to stop thinking about the negative things like that.
Okay, so what's your schedule like in retirement now?
Get up when I want to. Try to get a little exercise in, and then see by 5, I'm usually having a drink.
Why aren't you having a drink earlier? What are you doing up? Come on, Uncle Greg, you can have the drink at 10 a.m. if you want now.
Yeah, and that's the problem. So, no, we're not going to go back to college days.
So it's been good for you, man. And I know you missed certain things. You mentioned you missed the interactions, but what have you learned to appreciate in retirement?
Oh, I guess, my dad and both his brothers didn't live that long. So I guess having the chance to know that I made it this far and in relatively good health. Uh, but a lot of times when you sit there, I remember when I was playing pro football, we'd be out there in 2-a-days, we'd be doing up downs. And in the middle of it, I go, man, I can't wait till I get a regular job and I'm in an air conditioned office, and all this. And then when I got to that air conditioned office as a lawyer, I spent 19 years. I hated every day of it, wishing I was back on the field. And so you kind of look forward to retirement, then you retire and nobody else is retired that, you pretty much hang out with. And it can get pretty boring. So, uh, but it's good to be in the position that I could retire when I had to. And so I'm very grateful for that.
How's your health, man?
It's good. I mean, there's some side effects with Parkinson's disease, and I'm just now learning about, and that kind of screws me up a little bit day to day. But other than that, it's pretty damn good.
That's good, man. That's one of those things where I have a family member who has Parkinson's as well, and it's like you get into a good routine and you sometimes forget that they have it, right? And that they're dealing with this behind the scenes. Like I can't even imagine internally what it feels like. How you put it up, how you put that public face out where you try not hiding it, but trying to mask it a little bit, right? It's such a complicated, disease, man. And we're trying to learn more about it. We're trying to find solutions, but it's just one of those things as humans, we just haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, they don't know what causes it. There's no cure for it. Now there's certain medicines that helps manage it. But, look, I probably have had it. I was diagnosed 2 years ago, but I probably had it 8 years ago because I lost my sense of smell. I was always I couldn't, when you dream, you paralyze your body. My body won't paralyze. So I acted out my dreams and threw myself out of bed, broke my nose, broke my back once. But you know what? Hey, it wasn't stage 4 cancer or anything like that. I mean, you can live a long time with Parkinson's, and we'll just fight it day by day.
Do you think there was any link from your playing days to this, or was it?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Nobody on my mom's side, nobody on my father's side had Parkinson's. And then the NFL, I mean, believe it or not, people think guys are making all this money. They've only settled like 6% of all the claims in that lawsuit. But the guys that they are paying are the guys that had Lou Gehrig's disease or ALS, dementia, of course, and Parkinson's. But the Parkinson's and the Lou Gehrig's disease guys are getting paid pretty quick. I've already settled with the NFL, so I have no complaints.
Man, that's and that's one of those things that it's the last few years we've done a good job, I think, of talking about that. The guys that you grew up watching in terms of the fans, they're not just bodies of meat. There's impact, there's repercussions from playing at the highest level and the degree of difficulty, the speed at which the game was played at. And then in your era, it was, the science behind it all was almost, hey, just shut up and don't drink water, get your smelling salt and get back on the field, right? We didn't even have that. So I think we've done a better job of understanding that life after football is not easy on you guys. It's not a walk in the park. And I'm not playing like, oh, you're a victim or anything like that. But I think that has been important to point out that, it is a tough time, life after football, in terms of health.
Part of it is too, you got better doctors on the teams now, and the NFL's mandating that they have better doctors. When they used to call in my time, the team doctor was the team's doctor. His duty was to make sure you were on the field at all times. I remember I broke 2 ribs in practice one day, And I had a string of like 70 something consecutive starts, and I was worried about that. But if you've ever had broken ribs, those things hurt. And I mean, when you don't want to sneeze, you don't want to cough. So I go to our team doctor, who was the same doctor under Lombardi. That's how long he had been around. And our trainer, and I said, I don't think I can go. And they said, well, your ribs? And I said, yeah. And the doctor goes, we'll just shoot that up and we'll tape you very tight and you won't feel a thing. And I'm looking at the trainer. He's nodding his head. And I go, look, if I can't feel anything, isn't there a chance I could get hurt worse? And the doctor didn't even bat an eye. He goes, don't worry about it. He goes, worst thing happened, you puncture a lung.
Oh man, the broken ribs, you can't sleep with them.
You just pull the shirt up and go, hit me.
Gosh, man, that's so frustrating to hear. But that's how it was, man. You're right. Like with better medicine, better training, and better doctors, things change. I had broken ribs while I was training, doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I was rolling with a guy, Uncle Greg, because look, I'm thinking I'm pretty, I'm feeling good about myself. And at the time, I'm probably 170 pounds, 165 pounds. And the guy I'm rolling with is about 300 pounds. And I'm thinking, that's all right. Speed versus size. I got this, Uncle Greg. And sure enough, he did something, and he wasn't like, he was new as well. And I fractured my ribs, broke one, fractured two, and you can't sleep at night. That is the worst pain.
That's if you tear that cartilage between them.
Oh,
that hurts.
If you get the hiccups, forget it. I got the hiccups one time, and that was a pain like I've never felt before in my life, man. So you kind of hit at it when you were playing in the NFL. Things were so different. What exactly was it like playing in the NFL in the era that you played in? You were in the league for 10 plus years almost. You're a Green Bay Packers Hall of Famer in their Hall of Fame. It's incredible, one of the most storied franchises. But just what was it playing like in that era before we get down to specifics, just a high level overview?
Well, I mean, it's so much different than today's game. I mean, typical NFL schedule, you come in and watch the game film on Monday, you're off on Tuesday, then you have a hard practice Wednesday and Thursday, kind of walk through on Friday and Saturday to do your kicking game and stuff, and play again Sunday. Today they're in shells and helmets just about every practice. I think they can only have 13 or 14 padded practices throughout the entire season. We had full-blown scrimmages on 2 days a week and then played on Sunday. And so, you're not going to get broken ribs in practice like I did because they're not hitting the way they are, which is smart. I mean, Bill Walsh was the first guy that looked at his team and said, we don't have to do it like everybody else. And Randy Cross, a good friend of mine, an all-pro guard for him, said one day they're having a bad practice, and Walsh said, everybody up. And he goes, take it in and think about whether you want to have a padded practice tomorrow or practice like we have been. And Randy says, Coach, can we have a team meeting real quick? And, he just turned around and said, hey, don't screw this up, guys. We've got it so good. And they won 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Everybody was so scared to change, though, I mean,
and that's always the case, right?
And it didn't work. Yeah, it's just people scared to change.
And I understand that side of things, where the change, where for a head coach, from a head coach's perspective, and we can look at either this NFL, when you were playing, you work your ass off to get to a certain level, and when you're finally there, you don't want to lose it, right? You've got to be brave to implement that change that could just fall flat, and all of a sudden you're out of a job and you might not get hired again as a coach, reaching the pinnacle of your profession. Or you just kind of stay pat, and the owner goes, look, X team is doing this, let's follow that blueprint. And you go, absolutely, you know what, I might keep my job longer. So like it takes brave men, it takes brave people to implement change sometimes in a profession that doesn't want change.
Yeah, and you got to realize that also when I played, I mean, half the league would have been kicked out or of at least one game for targeting or things like that. That was what you were taught to do, lead with your head on everything. And that's probably one reason that so many guys are having problems with Parkinsons, things like that, because we did lead with the head. But, man, that was a badge of honor to knock somebody out of the game. you didn't want them to hurt them permanently, but if you could knock them out unconscious, that's what we were all trying to do. It's a weird thing, Indy and I used to talk about it all the time because we like to think we're somewhat intelligent people that did okay, but to say you like going out there and running full speed into another guy that weighs 280, 300 pounds and then get enjoyment out of that, there's something a little off with you. And we had to admit that, yeah, there's something a little off with us.
Man, that's crazy. So game days, now it's a TV spectacle. Guys are walking in on a fashion show runway. Afterwards, there's people all over, the groupies, the external factors on social media. What was game day like for you guys?
Well, a buddy of mine, you could either get taped at the hotel or get taped at the stadium. We always went over we just took a taxi by ourselves. Back then, this is before 9/11 and everything. So if you were just a big guy with like carrying a satchel or a suit bag or something, they just let you in the visitor's exit. So we'd find the thing. And I just remember our center one time, he took a little speed to get him kind of revved up for the game. And he always kept it in a Sucrets can. And he went and looked in his can, and it was empty. He forgot to check his little speed pills. And so he walks out in his pants and some flip-flops. We're in Detroit and hails a cab outside the stadium. And they run down to like the local, I think Eckerd's drugstore or something. And he's looking for anything he can, but he buys what were those? It wasn't no-dos. It was like some kind of
like just caffeine pills?
Yeah, caffeine. And there were like 20 in the pack. He took all 20 of them.
Oh, oh man, dude, that's just nuts.
Oh, it was a crazy time. I mean, my rookie year, every locker stood an ashtray in it, and there were some holdovers, some guy, from the early 70s and late 60s. And there'd be guys smoking before going to the game. Then we'd come back at halftime, and these guys would be smoking, and coach would be bumming from players, and players are bumming from them. And all the rookies are sitting there because, we grew up in the no smoking era. And we're all looking at each other. How did these guys play 10 years? I mean, I'm a rookie, and I'm playing against guys that I watched when I was like in third and fourth grade. Like when the first time we played the Vikings, I had Carl Eller. And Carl Eller was a great defensive end, and I had watched him growing up, and he was a guy that I just thought he was such a great athlete, but he was so coked up by the time that I played against him that he wasn't very hard to block, but about every fifth play he'd remember he was Carl Eller, and then he was a beast. So you didn't know when those plays were going to come, but he's cleaned up now, and he's just a great guy.
Dude, I mean, hell, watching The Last Dance right now, Uncle Greg. You see Michael before the game putting up 2 cigars. He has his Hennessy out. He's playing, he's playing golf right before. And this was 96, 98. This wasn't that long ago. I mean, it's 20 plus years, but I mean, guys were doing that back then. And in the NFL, especially, I mean, you got into an era, as you mentioned, where you grew up with the no smoking, but guys were still smoking during a game. There's infamous pictures of players on the sidelines even smoking.
Yeah, I got a great picture of Lynn Dawson in the first Super Bowl with a Fresca between his legs and smoking a cigarette on the sideline during the game. full pads. He's on the sidelines during the game smoking. So yeah, it was. And the other thing is, you got there and you looked up to these guys so much, and you'd follow them. Like when I got there, it was MacArthur Lane and John Brockington, these 2 running backs. And it's just, you're in awe of these guys, and you figure now you're on the same field. I remember in Milwaukee, we'd have to play some games. They don't do this anymore, but we'd play a couple of games a year in Milwaukee at Milwaukee County Stadium. Because it was a baseball field, both teams would be on the same sidelines. Mm-hmm. So my rookie year, we're playing the Rams. These are both in preseason. We play the Rams, and Joe Namath on the Rams. And we played the 49ers. OJ was on the 49ers that time. And both times I asked the guy, can I get in trouble if I go over and get an autograph during the game? He goes, yeah, you don't want to do that during the game.
You can't do a jersey swap like today?
No. Well, maybe afterwards, but I don't think OJ was going to swap jersey with the rookie offensive tackle. but I
Oh my
would have.
gosh.
I literally wanted to go over there during the game and get his autograph.
Man, that is incredible. Do you think with today, I tweeted this out where, like today's athletes, and rightfully so, look, you're supposed to improve on things like nutrition. You're supposed to improve on training methods because it would be disrespectful to a sport if you don't improve, right? If you don't implement new ways. But, like in your era for you, hell, even Michael Jordan, when I'm thinking about him, today's athletes will, before a game, they're like, hey, it's an 80-20 protein carb ratio. And I have to eat this and I have to train a certain way. I've got to get my stem and my Theragun done just right, just so I peak at the right time, all of this. If you had all these resources, do you think you would have played longer and even had an even more decorated career?
I would have played longer only because of the lack of a lot less hitting. Those Wednesdays and Thursday practices that we had. I mean, we had them in college. We had them in my 11 years in the
Mhm.
NFL. I mean, everybody hit on Wednesday and Thursday. They don't do that anymore. So that would give you a length of time. But you're still to play. Like Indy and I both played over a decade. A lot of that is skill and a lot of it is luck because you've seen some great players get their leg rolled up or something and it just doesn't happen to them again. Indy tore his ACL and I've had 3 operations on my right knee, so I've had about everything you can talk about getting operated on. But yeah, the lack of hitting, I think I could have played 2 or 3 more years.
What was your nutrition like when you were playing?
Well, when training camp, you're on a training table, so it was good. But you basically just ate anything you want. We didn't really. We had some nutritionists in the off season. We were gym rats. I mean, we hung out in the gym and worked out with weights all the time. But you know, 2 Advil and a Budweiser the next morning, we were ready to go again.
That's awesome. Do you ever get frustrated hearing, the comparisons of if X player from today's NFL played in X era of the NFL, he would have dominated, or vice versa? If you dropped somebody from your era in today's NFL, people want to play this game like, oh, they wouldn't last a snap. Does that ever get frustrating? And what are your thoughts on that discussion?
I don't think you can compare eras. I mean, the athletes today are better. A lot of guys, when I first came in the league, and some guys in college didn't think weightlifting was good for you. We had coaches even thought that way. But yeah, I just don't think you can compare eras. It's totally 2 different styles of play. Like a cornerback right now would have a lot less trouble in my era because he could get up and manhandle the guy. Now you got to give him the 5 yards, and if you breathe on him, they're going to throw a penalty. The NFL really has to look at their rules and the game's getting slow. They wanted to speed up, and it's getting slower because of all the flags and the replays and all that. But they're doing a better job. I mean, when I played, I think there was 8 to 10 cameras covering the game field. Now there's 34. So the NFL knows what it's doing. They're not a multi-billion-dollar company for nothing.
No, they're absolutely. When you were playing after a game, what was it like in Green Bay being a player that, because that's all they have? And I was lucky to go up to Green Bay for a game when the Texans went up there, 2016 with Brock.
When it
And
got the snow, I was
yeah,
there.
remember that? That was incredible. I mean, one half of the field, it starts snowing right that morning. And it was the perfect setup because that's all growing up watching. It's like you have to be there on a cold winter day. You've got to be there for snow at Lambeau. And it happened to work out where we had that. It was so beautiful. And the people there are so nice. And it's all about football. When you're a player there, what was it like having a community that just, and look, you were on the line, but gosh, you guys were superstars because in that era, as you mentioned, offensive linemen are they're the heroes. They're the ones opening up the holes, and you guys have legendary stories and all this. What was it like being there in that community during that run?
Well, it was a little bit of a shock at first because on draft day, they didn't have the big draft like they did now. You just kind of waited at your apartment with one of my best friends from high school, R.C. Tillman, we both played at Arkansas. We played right guard and right tackle in high school, and we played right guard and right tackle all through Arkansas. To our senior year, he moved to center, and we got drafted 2 people apart in the second round. So we were sitting there waiting by the phones and listening to that. But when you get to Green Bay, the adulation is unbelievable, and I never could understand it because there was a place where I took my dry cleaners, and they gave me a 10% discount because I was a Packer. And I'm thinking, what about this guy that works at Fox Paper Company that really needs that 10%? You know, I wish they would give it to them, but they'll know your number, they'll know where you went to college, they'll know your height and weight. But it's only 102,000 people in the town. But when you're out, they may nod and say hi or go get them, but they really pretty much leave you alone.
Oh, that's really cool.
Now, I don't know if that's the way it is today with these guys making the kind of money they're making today. I mean, I used to want to kick my dad right in the ass every time I saw him for not waiting like 15 years to have me. Corny little bastard.
It is nuts, man, how the money changed in such a quick time, right? Like, I mean, 15 years is a blink of an eye in the NFL. And it's like, if you're right, if you're 15 years later, you're probably not doing this interview with me because you're probably in Mexico right now. You probably bought an island, Uncle Greg. Let's be honest.
I got a little island, like a little square lot out here in Katy, Texas. Uncle Greg's zone.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm in the poor Katy, Uncle Greg. I'm in Richmond.
Hey, you're close.
I'm right by you.
We need to get together.
Absolutely, man. That would be an honor. I'm in the different tax bracket of Katy. I'm in the Richmond tax bracket. You know what I'm talking about, okay? Katy, look, man, keep balling out, baby. That's what I'm talking about. What were the groupies like in Green Bay?
A little hefty.
Thick?
No, I'm not going to say that because I got in trouble when I got to Miami. They asked me what the biggest difference was between this made Sports Illustrated. They said, what's the biggest difference between Green Bay and Miami? And I go, well, in Green Bay, you got a great wardrobe if you have 10 bowling shirts. and so I was just joking. I mean, I love Green Bay. And so this radio station sent me 130 bowling shirts and a bowling ball and said, hey, Greg, take a fashion risk and jump off a cliff. So, so I didn't think I would ever get in the Packers Hall of Fame just because of that one statement, how bad they took. But luckily, some people watched the film and thought I was a little bit deserving. But
man,
the girls you get good at the indoor Olympics in Green Bay. Drinking, bar dice, darts, and pool. That is the indoor Olympics. And then once the indoor Olympics, let's say closed down about 2:00, then the indoor Olympics begin again in another way.
Do you playing in the 70s? I mean, you were lucky to be alive in that era where I mean, it was the hippie culture. You've got music, you've got the peace, love movement, all that stuff. Did did you ever get involved in that? Because I wish I could see you rocking your
70s. I was in high school then, so yeah, I had some clogs and I had some, my corduroy bell bottoms that were everywhere. Looked like a total idiot when I got pictures like that. And then in '77, I got drafted by the Packers and played through '88. So I was at the '80s. They were talking about how the '60s were the love and music, and that's because the pill came out. So when the pill came out, people were a little less worried about getting pregnant. So it was the era of love. Okay. But in the '80s, man, that thing turned all around because that was the era of the white powder. That white powder ran rampant through the nation, and the NFL was no different.
Yeah, I mean, you were in Miami. What, you're 82?
If you ever saw the Cocaine Cowboys, that's right when I was in Miami.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
What was the wildest thing you saw during that era?
Oh man.
As you think, for those who don't know, the Cocaine Cowboys is a documentary recounting just how much cocaine came through the port of Miami. I mean, the banks that popped up.
Built Miami.
Yeah, everything is built on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were there during that era.
Yeah. One of my teammates got married, and so I fly up to, and I won't say the town, just, but I get picked up in a limousine, and I said, where are we going? And he said, some fancy hotel downtown. They had the penthouse suite. And when I got down there and I walked in for the bachelor party, let's just say there were 24 scantily clad women and a lot of booze. And to tell you how bad it was in the 80s right then, one of the guys there, who was an all-pro defensive end, one of the, my friend only had 3 groomsmen, me and 2 other guys. They both played for an AFC West team. I'll just put it that way. He actually calls his bookie because he wants to score an 8-ball for the party. And what they didn't know is that the feds were tapping this bookie's line, and you could probably figure it out. He gets busted and does a year in the federal penitentiary.
What?
This is an all-pro defensive end, does a year in the federal pen because he got caught buying cocaine over the telephone, and the feds were listening in. And he came back and finished a career, played like 5 more years after the year in the pen.
That's load management. You got a year off, you recover, you're hungrier, you're off the coke.
Yeah, your head's on a swivel, as they say.
Yeah, you've picked
Keep
up
your head on a swivel.
Yeah, you picked up prison
There's 2
training
places
methods.
to do that: around a pile in the football game and in prison.
Man, I'd never want to be.
And you just tell me, well, you always take, when you go in there to take a dump, you always take your pants completely off. And I go, why do you do that? And he goes, you can't run with your pants down around your ankles. Tips from prison.
Man, that is nuts. And then, I mean, you got the cocaine Cowboys. You're a professional football player. Did you just have wild people approaching you all the time, or what was that like? Because there's so many characters from that scene in Miami, and they all wanted to be affiliated with professional athletes.
Yeah, and they talk about how the Pittsburgh Steelers came over like 2 nights before the Super Bowl and just got hammered and won the Super Bowl. I mean, but it was like that here in Houston. I mean, you go out to the clubs here, and some of the people that waited on you, that's how they were tipped by certain people. Just do a big old bump right there on the table.
Man,
that's how they got tipped. It was a crazy time.
I can't even imagine.
About the 60s, and that's only because, I don't know why.
I can't even imagine, man. And then the music.
Hey, you're about to lose me, I think.
Let me try this again.
Oh, yeah.
Uncle, there you are. How about now?
The music. I still listen to music.
Hey, can you hear me, Uncle Greg? Is this better?
I got you. Can you see me?
Yep. I can see you. I can see you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I liked, I was born in 85, and I'm like 100% sure if I was in high school in the 80s, I would be part of Prince and the Revolution. Like, I would be all in on the Revolution. I would be dressing like them. I'm getting stuff from the women's department, of Macy's or JCPenney. What was the music like for you? And look, I think you and I have very different tastes in music, but what was that like in the 80s with the music? Everything is shifting towards guys are becoming more like Prince.
Well, the 70s was the disco era.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, the 70s, it was the end of disco. But I just wanted Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, and it was different in the locker rooms, because back then you had Al Green, and there was great music. There's always been great music.
I would have loved to be in an NFL locker room in like 84, 85, and I'm rolling up playing Prince pregame. You think I would have been kicked out?
No, you would not have been kicked out.
Okay.
A lot of Queen back then. Queen played in the locker room. So, no, Prince that guy was a magician. That guy is one of the most underrated guitar players there ever was.
Absolutely. There was a concert. Lance Erline actually sent it to me, where Prince and the Revolution were in the Metrodome, and it was on YouTube, and I think they just took it down. It was only for a weekend, I believe. And they redid the master volume, all of that, so it sounds really good. And I was watching it, and I'm amazed, man. To have that in you for 2 hours, the kind of performance Prince put on, and the Revolution, it's unbelievable. And yeah, like when he was
I'm
just
getting ready to lose you for some.
okay. Uncle Greg is going to regroup here, so I'm going to take him off. Uncle Greg is going to reboot here, and we'll get it going. Let's try it now. But yeah, just watching that Prince concert, man, you see how much he puts into every single song, how much goes into every single guitar solo and the rehearsals and all of that, man. It was a masterpiece to watch. Just incredible stuff in terms of a performance. And look, Michael Jackson gets the credit. Michael is Michael, and respected as well. But Prince, man, the live music and the live performance with the instruments that will come, it was unbelievable to watch. And look, I'm not a diehard Prince fan by any means, but when Lance sent me that, I watched it, and I watched it with my daughter, in fact, and even she was like, "This is crazy," but she also had some comments like, "Why are they dressed like that? Why are they wearing certain things?" And I'm going, I don't know if we have enough time to go through the 80s and go through the revolution and why this was so revolutionary. So it was so crazy to watch that. Okay, Uncle Greg if you're watching live, Uncle Greg is going to reconnect here, and we will get him back on. We're going to talk a little bit about his radio career. We're going to talk to him about some other stuff as well, becoming a lawyer after the NFL. So once he gets reconnected, we will do that. For those of you that are still watching right now, this is a good time to give some love to the brand new Spicy Girl shirts. What? Check them out. Spicy Girl shirts available right now at teespring.com/Raheel show. You can save 20% off on the Spicy Girl shirts. If you see it on your screen right now, you can save 20% off right now by using promo code LADIES, LADIES, and you will get 20% off on the Spicy Girl t-shirts. Also, hey, upcoming on Friday around 10:30 a.m. And again, the schedule for the podcast changes based on the guest. And look, I work around people's schedules. This is nice where I can just do it from my room. We're going to have Manny Fresh, a.k.a. Manny from the Nosebleeds, his podcast, a good friend of mine. It's been a long time since I caught up with him. We're going to catch up with him in terms of what's been happening, his thoughts on a lot of different things when it comes to sports, the sports landscape, all that good stuff. So I'm going to talk to him as well on Friday and get that going. We'll check with, and then I'll release the schedule, as well, for upcoming shows every Sunday night. So make sure you are looking out for that, and we will get that going. Man, with Uncle Greg, as he reconnects here, I'll get him back on when it's time. But just some of the stuff he brought up in terms of being an athlete in one era and then being an athlete in a certain era. And he said, look, it's not fair to compare them. And that's absolutely fine because things change so much. One thing I want to hit on real quickly as he reconnects here, I want to hit on the Jordan playing in a certain era, Steph Curry playing in a certain era. And one thing that gets lost in all of this, the one thing that I hate hearing from fans and media people alike is Jordan would have never survived in today's game because his three-point shooting wasn't high enough and he didn't take enough and his percentages weren't good enough. And vice versa, it's Steph Curry would not have survived in the 80s or 90s because it's so physical. It's impossible to play because of hand checking and guys are getting leveled. And I said this on the radio show before. If you actually go back and watch normal games, like not the highlights, but go watch games from the 90s and late 80s, it wasn't all that physical. It wasn't. There are, in the playoffs, yes, there were hard fouls. And yes, there were dirty fouls and all that stuff. But it wasn't that physical night in and night out. Now, was it physical? Yes. but it wasn't like the highlights would suggest. The thing that bugs me about the cross comparison is that we don't put in the fact that these professional athletes who have risen to the top of their profession in their era, the reason they get there is because they adjust their game and they get better. And they don't just go in and go, this is my way and we're never going to improve. That's the one thing. Like, you guys are telling me Jordan wouldn't have updated his game, worked on his game in the offseason to become a better three-point shooter, or Steph Curry wouldn't have adjusted his game and learned to play through the physical contact and implement his style with, getting hit. Like, yes, you can do that. That's why these guys are so good, is that they get better. And the fact that we don't give them that courtesy of, hey, they're going to get better. It's not like they're just going to stay pat and not adjust their game at all. That is so disrespectful to these players. And it doesn't matter from which era. It doesn't matter if you're talking about the 90s NBA versus today's NBA and all that. And that's the one thing that I wanted to lay out there, that we have to put that in there, that little caveat of guys will get better. And it's okay to say that, like, Michael could adjust his game, or Steph could adjust his game, or take whichever player. So I just wanted to hit on that before we get back to Greg Koch. And it looks like he's going to have some issues here reconnecting. So I'm going to hit him up and send him a link again. Try this, and boom. And let's see if he can get back in to the Raheel Show podcast, because I still have a lot of questions for him. Let's go to the comments sections and let's see what you guys are saying right now. What's up, Justin? Watching from New Orleans. I like it. We're right outside New Orleans. Thank you so much. George Garcia, I'm rolling at Uncle Greg. Yes, his stories are the best. He is a phenomenal storyteller and just one of the coolest dudes ever. So I appreciate him joining us and being part of this. Yo, what's up, Leo? I see you. What up? Thank you, everyone, for subscribing on YouTube. I appreciate that. And thank you, everyone, for making sure you guys are subscribing on the podcast side of things. Luis, what it do, baby? I love it. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the show. I'm going to give Uncle Greg a few more minutes here, and let's see what happens. And if not, then we will call this a wrap. We will end this podcast, and then we'll try to get him back on another time and focus on the radio side of things. But just to get the Green Bay side, just to get his years in the NFL, man, it was fun to talk to him about that. And he's a great dude. Make sure you are following him on Twitter. He is in retirement, so he has free time. You can hit him up, and he will respond to your tweets, which I absolutely love, at Greg Koch 1. Okay, so it looks like he's not going to be rejoining us. It looks like we're having Wi-Fi issues and internet issues with Uncle Greg. So we are going to wrap it here. Thank you so much for listening to us. We will have a longer conversation with Uncle Greg when the time is right. And a big thank you to the listeners for supporting me, for subscribing on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you rate, review the episodes as well, and the podcast in general. Share it with your friends. Remember, 5 people each. You can do this. And get your t-shirts right now at teespring.com/Raheel Show. Okay, we are done. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to the Raheel Show podcast. We will talk to you guys next time.